Hey everybody, it's Michael Angel with Fix the Tune, and we're now on video 5 out of our 5-part series on 5 different types of EQs. So we have talked about the program equalizer, we've talked about the mix equalizer, we've talked about the mastering equalizer, and we've talked about the console EQ. So the final type of EQ that I've decided to divide this into is the outboard EQ. You can have a program EQ that's an outboard EQ. You can have just about any kind of EQ and it's also an outboard EQ. So why would I specify that as a separate thing? Well, looking at the utilitarian purpose of why we use EQs and why they're built the way that they are, from the beginning where there were no consoles at all and we were going straight to the master or the recorded media, we found that we needed more control for more tracks as they were designed. But also it is beneficial for the quality of the sound when we're dealing with live musicians to be able to match the right frequencies coming from the microphone and the musicianship to what we want the recording to sound like. And so if there is something bouncing off a part of the room that we can't control and we don't want to lose a good performance, or somebody's voice isn't a perfect fit for the only, 5 main EQs that we have to choose from, etc., it's nice to have that EQ that we can patch into place. The early consoles did not have tons of flexibility for EQ, and some of the first patchable outboard EQs were designed to fill in a board that doesn't have this frequency or that frequency. And so they were usually made to the same specifications as the EQs that were built into the console, but maybe they would have a 2 kilohertz or 5 kilohertz or 8 kilohertz that the mid or the highs of the console EQ did not have. They also might have a different shape. Obviously, as we get to the 70s and 80s, when the consoles all have very useful EQs built in and high-end consoles are of a quality that even mastering houses might be using, why do we have studios with such huge racks of gear? All these different reverb units and all these different compressors and all these different EQs. Well, the truth is that if we had one of everything, that would be fun, but it's not necessary. But as you do develop a style, and especially if you're making good money from production, it's one of those things that you love to acquire. And as you read and learn about different studios and what different producers loved working with, you can find a single disassembled studio that had certain broadcast EQs on every channel of their console, or a classic mixer that has been decommissioned, that the parts are being parted out. You can take those and have somebody create a custom power supply and rack it up. And all of a sudden you can patch into something that was used for 1940s broadcast from Siemens or Telefunken. You might be able to rack up a single channel of a very rare console. But really the main thing to look at with outboard EQ is that it's serving a purpose that you want to patch in that is not automatically available on all of your channels. Today in our digital environment, typically you may have a main controller feeding a computer and everything is going straight from analog to digital interfacing through your AD conversion. So outboard EQs may not be necessary, but you still probably in your arsenal of plugins have certain EQs that are typically used as outboard EQs. And once again, we're talking Pultecs. They're not usually installed in an integrated system. You have to add them. Things that are also considered mastering EQs, but some devices have become popular as outboard EQs. You may not have a lot of studios that are installing API consoles, but they're certainly installing a rack of 1 to 5, maybe even 8, 550 series EQs. A lot of mastering facilities do not have a console that they deal with per se, but they might have a stereo matched pair of Neve 1073s. So an outboard EQ is basically anything that fills a purpose that you don't have in your integrated system, that adds an extra color, another layer of frequencies that weren't usable, or just has that special something that is worth collecting and worth being able to add at a moment's notice. And other people might have their own definition of what makes for a good outboard EQ too. I think that it'll be fun, now that I've finished these 5, to throw a survey out there and find out what everybody's favorite EQs are for certain purposes. These are things that are fun to discuss, but it's also really helpful for people trying to make mixed decisions. One person might be only wanting to do rockabilly, and somebody else might only do a certain type of EDM music, and their 2 choices for the absolute have-to go-to equalizers might be completely different. So it's part of the learning process. It might help save you a few $1,000s on your way to the perfect setup. I hope that you found this interesting. In the next set of videos, I'm actually going to be doing a series of 10 videos on EQing. Now that we have set it up for here's different types of EQs, now we're going to talk about the different types of scenarios that call for equalization. And I'm building this to work towards doing some tutorials to help work with our community hands-on with some of the types of mixes that they're having issues with. Which leads me to the next thing. Make sure if you like these videos, please support them by subscribing to my YouTube channel. Please let other people know about us. You know, we're growing organically. I'm not spending any great money out there to get my name known. I've been helping my community of customers for the past decade, and I'm looking to share that experience with the building community where we can all work together and help each other grow as musicians and producers and engineers. So please go to fixatune.com, click on forum and register. It's free, and come join the discussion, be a part of the learning process. Let's start a really fun new audio revolution. All right. God bless you guys. Bye-bye.